Some men spend their whole lives building a shield for people who will later call it a cage. I was one of them. And it took a phone that wouldn't ring to teach me the difference. My name is Daniel Ochoa, 54 years old. And for 3 days I was convinced my daughter was dead. Somewhere in Arizona. That's not a figure of speech. That's what it feels like to stand in your own garage at 3 in the morning, staring at a phone, building every version of tragedy your mind can invent. I run a company called Kestrel Fabrication out of Toledo, Ohio. We build precision parts for agricultural equipment, the kind of unglamorous machinery that keeps farms running and never gets a second thought from anybody who isn't. Standing in a field at harvest time, I started that company in a rented pole barn with a used lathe and a loan I was terrified I'd never pay back. My own mother raised 4 of us alone after my father left, and I remember exactly what it felt like to watch her count coins on the kitchen table at the end of the month. I promised myself, standing in that pole barn 26 years ago, that my children would never have to count anything. I kept that promise for 24 years. Then, on a Monday in September, that promise turned into the worst 3 days I have ever lived through. Welcome to Dad's raw revenge. Settle in, because this one earns its ending. Drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from tonight. It started, like most disasters do, with something completely ordinary. My daughter Marissa had a car loan. 20-6 years old. Works in marketing for a resort company out in Scottsdale. And 2 years back she needed a co-signer to get into a decent car after her old one finally gave out. I signed without hesitation. That's what fathers do. Or at least that's what I always believed. The bank sent a routine notice about a missed auto pay, a small thing. The kind of clerical hiccup that gets fixed with one phone call. I called Marissa to give her a heads up before it hit her credit report. Straight to voicemail. Fine. She's at work. I left a message. Casual. Nothing urgent in my voice. By the next day, nothing. I called again. Voicemail again. Now here's the thing about Marissa. She never lets a call from me sit for more than a few hours. Not since she was 16, and I told her that no matter what kind of trouble she was in, I would always pick up. She's held me to that promise from both directions ever since. So when a full day passed with nothing, I called my son Eli, 22, out at Arizona State, figuring he'd have heard from his sister. Voicemail. Both of them, same week. I told myself it was nothing. The way you tell yourself a lot of things right before you find out you were wrong. My wife, Renata, noticed it before I said a word out loud. 29. Years of marriage teaches a woman to read the weather on your face before you feel the storm yourself. You've been staring at that phone since dinner, she said, setting down a plate of Arroz con Palo neither of us had touched. What's going on with you? Marissa and Eli aren't answering, I told her. Neither one, since yesterday. She waved it off the way I wanted her to. They're busy, Danny. They're grown. She was right. And I knew she was right, and none of it made the knot in my stomach loosen even slightly. By day 3, it stopped being annoying and started being unbearable. I called Marissa 9 times that day. I called Eli 6. Every single one died in a voicemail box that felt colder each time I heard it. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw a highway patrol car pulling into our driveway. A trooper removing his hat before he even reached the porch steps. My own father disappeared out of my life the day he decided to. No warning, no goodbye. Just an empty chair at breakfast. I think some part of me has spent 40 years waiting for the people I love to vanish the same way, without so much as a phone call first. That night I sat on the edge of the bed at 1 in the morning, thumb hovering over Marissa's name for what felt like the 100th time. Renata sat up behind me. Danny, come to bed. Something is wrong, I said, and my voice came out cracked in a way I hadn't heard from myself since we buried my mother. 3 days. Neither one of them. That is not busy. That is not normal. Maybe they're together, she offered. Maybe their phones died, both phones, for 3 straight days. I turned and I watched the same fear land on her face that had been sitting in my chest since Monday. "Pack a bag," I said. "We're flying out there." She didn't argue. 29. Years teaches you which fights are worth having and which ones you simply get up and pack a bag for. We booked the first flight out of Detroit Metro the next morning, and I remember watching the runway. Lights blur past the window and thinking this trip would either be the worst decision of my life or the thing that saved my children. I had no idea which. Renata held my hand the entire flight, and neither of us said much because there is no small talk that fits comfortably next to the fear that your kids might already be gone. We landed in Phoenix a little after 1 in the afternoon, and that dry desert heat hit us like an open oven door the second we stepped off the jet bridge. I rented a Tahoe at the counter, tossed our single bag in the back, and pointed us toward Marissa's apartment in Scottsdale, a gated complex near the resort where she worked. Renata kept saying the same thing on a loop the whole drive, like she was trying to talk herself into believing it. "They're fine, Danny. There's probably some boring explanation." "Then why won't they answer?" I said, gripping the wheel tighter than I needed to. 3 days. 15 calls between the two of us. Nothing. She went quiet after that. And I think some part of her already suspected the way I did. That boring wasn't what was waiting for us. Marissa, single quotes, S. Building had a stucco archway and a fountain out front that looked like it belonged in a postcard. Palm trees swaying over a courtyard. That felt a world away from Toledo winters. We rode the elevator to the 3rd floor in silence, and my hand was actually shaking when I lifted it to knock. 20-4 years of fatherhood. And I was standing outside my own daughter's door like a man about to identify a body. Then I heard it. Music, laughter, glasses clinking, balloons tied to the porch railing, bobbing gently in the hot breeze. That is not the sound of tragedy, I thought. And for half a second relief hit me so hard my knees nearly buckled. Thank God. Thank God. They're okay. I knocked. The music dipped. Footsteps. The latch turned. The door swung open to reveal my daughter. A drink in her hand, a smile that started wide and warm and then curdled the instant she recognized who was standing there. Not confusion. Something colder. "What are you guys doing here?" "Not Dad, are you okay?" "Not is everything all right?" "What are you guys doing here?" Like we were vendors she'd have to figure out how to get rid of. I kept my voice steady even though my chest was folding in on itself. "I've been calling for 3 days, Marissa. I thought something happened to you." Renata pushed past me a step, both hands flying to her mouth, 29 years of motherhood pouring out of her all at once. "Oh, thank God, sweetheart, you're okay." "We've been sick with worry," Marissa cut her off before she finished the sentence, and rolled her eyes so hard it looked like it hurt. "We didn't answer," she said. Flat, final, because we didn't want to talk to you. "Stop calling us. We have our own lives. You're suffocating us. Stay on your own." 6 words, and I've been hit by plenty of things in my life. A press break once caught my forearm. A loan rejection back when Kestrel was 2 months from folding. None of it landed the way. Those 6 words landed. Before I could even find something to say, a young man stepped up beside her, arms sliding around her waist like he'd done it 100 times before. "Honestly," he said, "do you guys ever stop hovering? We're celebrating something today." Renata blinked at him, completely lost. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Marissa raised her left hand, slow, deliberate, a ring catching the porch light and throwing it back in our faces. "This is Cole, my fiancé, and today is our engagement party, which you are currently ruining by showing up uninvited." Uninvited, ruining. Our daughter, engaged, and we found out standing on a doorstep being told we were the problem. My son Eli appeared behind them a moment later, holding a tray of carne asada. And he groaned the second he saw us, actually groaned, like we were an errand he thought he'd already finished. "Seriously? You couldn't let us have one day?" "Your loan servicer flagged a missed autopay," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'm the co-signer, Marissa." I needed to verify something before it hit your credit. I called for 3 days and neither of you answered. Eli laughed, short and mocking, no humor in it at all. Here we go, the savior complex. You think because you signed a piece of paper you get to track us every hour of the day? This is exactly why I picked a school 2 states away. Marissa nodded along like he'd delivered gospel. We saw your calls. We let them ring on purpose. We wanted to see how long it would take you to finally get the hint. Purposefully, not busy, not distracted, purposefully, while I sat awake 3 straight nights picturing every version of tragedy. A father's mind can build. Cole gestured toward the elevator like he was shooing off a delivery driver. Please, just go. I didn't yell. I've thought about that a lot since, whether I should have let some of what was breaking in me show on my face. But that's not who I am, and I had figured out long ago that I'd rather be steady than loud. I took Renata's hand, and we turned toward the elevator, and behind us I heard Cole mutter something low to Marissa that I didn't need to hear clearly to understand the tone of. The flight home was the quietest 2 hours of my life. And I have sat through some quiet hours. Renata stared out the window the entire way, watching Arizona shrink beneath the clouds. And somewhere over New Mexico, she finally spoke. I kept my mother's rosary in my jewelry box for 30 years, she said, waiting for the day I'd give it to whoever Eli or Marissa chose to marry. I imagined telling her the story. I never imagined being told I was ruining a party I didn't even know existed. I held her hand and said nothing, because there was nothing to say that would make it less true. By the time we landed in Toledo, something in me had already decided, even before I had words for it, they wanted to be on their own. So I resolved to give them exactly that, legally and financially. Down to the last signature, I called my attorney, Marcus Feldman, at 8 the next morning, and told him to pull my name off Marissa's auto loan the same day. You sure? He asked. Once that guarantee drops, the lender reassesses the whole loan on her income alone. I've never been sure. I said. By noon it was filed. I also called the bank holding the small business line Eli had been quietly using for a side venture, secured against my company's credit, and revoked my authorization in writing. I didn't do it in anger. I just let the bank show my children exactly what they were worth without my name standing behind them. Marissa's call came 11 days later, her voice tight and clipped, telling me the lender had reassessed her loan and was demanding a lump payment she didn't have. There's no mistake, I told her, calm and even. I withdrew as cosigner. You told me to stay on my own. So, I am. She showed up on our porch 3 weeks after that with Eli beside her, both of them pulling up in a car that wasn't the one I remembered, asking how I could do this to family. You told me I was suffocating you, I said. I'm only honoring what you asked for. That isn't revenge. That's adulthood. I went to see Marcus again that same week and rewrote the trust, redirecting what would have gone to my children toward a scholarship, fund for kids of single parents building small businesses from nothing, the way my mother once tried and never quite managed to. Some evenings now, Renata and I sit on the back porch in Toledo, coffee in hand, watching the sky do its slow fade. And I've come to understand something simple. I spent my whole life trying to give my children the shield I never had. Somewhere along the way, I nearly forgot to protect the woman who had been standing beside me through every version of it. My kids made their choice clear on a doorstep in Scottsdale, Renata, and I still have each other. And it turns out that's more than enough. Thanks so much for watching. If this one hit home for you, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And check out more stories just like this one here on the Revenge Hub.